Welcome, everybody. Fabulous people. My name is Dawn Daniels, and I am a high school teacher. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. I'm also a licensed guidance counselor, and I also have done training in chemical dependency. I've worked with toddlers all the way up into adults. And talking with Pastor Luz and Pastor Les, we talked about doing a something for parents because parenting is the hardest job in the world. Can I get an amen? um, it's so important for me to share this as much as possible because I think as parents, as grandparents, who often are raising children today, we don't give parents enough credit. We often feel like we are failing, and that no matter what we do, it's not enough. And I want to tell you guys right now, it's hard, and it's important to recognize that it's hard, and it's not just you. Every parent struggles. What I've often found is parents don't always share with each other the difficulties. They kind of keep it to themselves for fear that people are going to judge them and think that they're a bad parent. Okay, I'm here to tell you, you're not a bad parent. The fact that you're even here shows that you're not a bad parent. It's just learning how to deal with the behaviors, uplifting somebody else that you know who might be struggling, and also giving parents a pat on the back, letting them know, I see you. I see the hard work that you're doing, because we often don't get that either, right? We just, all we hear is our failures at the end of the day. So um, there is bad parenting. I did say there's not bad. Yes, there is. There is a lot of bad parenting, but but there's a lot of people out there, and I would say most parents are trying to do their best. So let's open up today with a prayer. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today, for bringing these people together, Lord, that we might give them some wisdom, Father, from you to guide them, to lift them up, to encourage them, Lord, in the toughest job in the world, Father. You gave us these children and our grandchildren, Lord, to just, one, keep the world going, but two, to show us how much you love us, because with our children is unconditional love, Father, and that's the closest we'll ever get to understanding your love for us. God, speak through me. Let them hear you and not me. Thank you, Father. We love you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. So I'm going to start with something I told Pastor when I came in was I was praying. I just finished reading a chapter in the Bible, and I asked the Holy Spirit, where should I go next? And I heard nothing. And so I remembered what the pastor had said, was preaching earlier, and it was First Timothy, so I decided to go into that. I do use the Life Application Study Bible, and so when I opened First Timothy, this was the first thing in the application part. It says, without trying, we model our values. Parents in particular demonstrate to their children what they consider important and valuable. Like father, like son is not a well-worn cliche. It's a truth we see lived out in our homes. Experience proves that children often follow the life patterns of their parents, repeating their successes and their mistakes. Timothy is a prime example of someone who was influenced by godly relatives. His mother Eunice and his grandmother Lois were Jewish believers who helped shape his life and promote his spiritual growth. Timothy would go on to be one of the most important apostles, and his love and his kindness and his joy and his fellowship is what led people to Christ. And so it's through our behaviors that we can teach our kids, because I can promise you they're always watching you. They are watching you. Okay. You're going to cringe sometimes when you see some of the things that your children do, because you're going to see you in your kids. Okay. From toddlers to teens, decoding behavior. So, Pastor Les, can you go to the next one? So, babies are so cute, so precious. Our heart come to life, moody, loud, and exhausting, all wrapped up into one. It's okay to admit it's hard, and it's okay to admit that you don't always know what you're doing. It's okay to admit that you love your children, but sometimes you don't like them. Can I get a raise of hands of people who have felt that way? Okay. Okay, go ahead to the next one. All right, we've all been there. Pastor Les, can you click on that link? Okay, you can go ahead. That continues on from there. Can we all say we have experienced this? Really? Oh, okay, not yet. So, just you wait. That is a tantrum. That is what children do. And as you saw, was he hurting? No. Was he okay? He was fine. But what he was trying to do was he was trying to get attention. And so as you saw, he would find mom, he would go to mom, and as soon as he found mom, he'd throw himself back down on the floor. He's communicating with her, but it's all about that. It had nothing to do with him being in pain or anything like that. Okay? This is toddler behavior. This is what they do. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. There we go. All behavior is a form of communication. Toddler behavior between ages 1 and 3 shifts from basic survival needs. So babies, they're all in survival need. They can't take care of themselves. To exploration of independence and emotional identity. During this stage, children experience big emotions but lack the brain development or the vocabulary to express them the way that you wish that they would express them, right? And so children, so how many people have toddlers? Anybody? Okay, one toddler in here. So toddlers, they're not verbal yet. And so their body language is going to tell you everything. And unfortunately, their body language tends to be screaming and tantrums and crying, kicking, things like that. And as time goes on, it becomes more and more. How old's your daughter now? Okay. And I hate to say this, and everybody hates this, but the terrible twos. They're real. Some children, every once in a while, a child doesn't get the terrible twos, but then they get the horrible threes. So, and it's not really, that's how we feel about it, but it really is just them finding out who they are. They're becoming more independent. And so that in itself is hard to deal with, right? You see this sweet little thing that was just so precious, and then one day you don't recognize them. I cried for a month when my daughter turned 2. She went from the sweetest, could not wait till mommy got home, to I had no idea what happened, tantrums, everything. And then when she was 3, my mother was not the easiest person. My mother was, I hate to say this because it's being videotaped, but my mom was tough. And so I decided with my children, I was not going to do what my mom did, which was just spank and ask questions later. I was going to talk to my children. So my daughter was 3, and I said, she had done something to her brother, and I said, you're going to stand in the corner and you're going to think about what you did. And she turned around and she crossed her arms and said, are you done with your speech yet? She was 3. And it escalated from there. When she was 5, she threw herself on the stairs and cried out because she had to pick up the toys in her room and said, my life is so hard. It's not fair. So it's continued. That has been my daughter. So, but these behaviors are not for anything. This is really learning their autonomy from you. And that's the hard part, right? Is because they want to be with you, and little by little they're scooting away. But that's okay because that's what you want. All right, next slide, please. Emotional outbursts. So, sudden biting. This usually stems from frustration, a lack of words, or painful teething. So they're just trying to figure out how to do with this. This person's bothering them. They want to get them away from them. They're going to do anything and everything that comes to mind, and biting is going to be one of them. The floppy dog tantrums. This is dropping on the floor like we just saw. This signals a complete emotional overload and inability to cope. When a child is experiencing this, remember, their brain has not developed to the point where they can express themselves. The only way they can express themselves is through the tantrum. What is the point of the tantrum? To get your attention. They need your attention. And most parents, what do we do when this happens? What do most parents do when this happens? When they're throwing that tantrum and they're throwing themselves on the floor? You ignore it, or you yell at them, right? You try to stop it. You try to reason with them. Yes. Yes, you want something to cry about, right? So screaming no, this is not defiance. It's a healthy sign that they realize that they are separate from you. It's like, ooh, I can do this on my own. So let's go back to babies. Why do we put the little mobiles over a baby's crib? They don't have object permanence yet. So when a baby sees this is what it looks like. This right here, this is all they see. When you open, it is now completely changed. It's a whole different object. It's like, ooh, that's cool. What's that? And then when it changes again, it's a whole nother object. So when they're watching that little mobile, every time it turns, it's something new for them. When your baby's really little, okay, and I can't remember the exact age. I want to say it's around 7 months is when they learn object permanence. The brain actually has it. You remember when you used to play peekaboo? Peekaboo, and the baby's like, ah! And then you cover, peekaboo, ah! And they're so excited. It's because when you covered your face, you literally disappeared. You no longer existed. You were not behind those hands. Then they'll get to the age where they start peeling your hands away because object permanence has now developed in the brain. They now know you're back there. Take a toy away from a toddler and put it behind them, and they won't even look for it because it no longer exists. So as their brain starts developing and they start to learn those things, that's when they start going, ooh, I've got more control over this whole little environment than I thought. I used to think this stuff just disappeared. Now it's present, it's here. So they're slowly, every single day, they're developing. In those first 3 years, billions upon billions upon billions of connections are wiring every single day. They are growing exponentially more than they will ever grow in their entire lifetime in those first 3 years. Okay, so this is where all of this. So imagine you guys sitting here, okay? How long are seminars typically? About an hour. Why? Because adults can't sit still longer than an hour. Now imagine your brain exponentially growing. That's not even counting your body. That's just your brain. That much every single day. How exhausted you would feel. How over stimulated you would feel all the time. And now your environment's changing all the time, right? And so, because they're acclimating to your environment, right? Whatever you're doing. Now let's look at chaotic situations. If you live in a chaotic home, if you have to take your child to daycare, and this is not anything bad, it's not bad to take your kid to daycare, but that's a different environment. And so their little body is having to acclimate to different environments all the time, okay? So they're going to do these things because this is how they cope, okay? Next screen, please. Physical actions, throwing objects. This tests the cause and effect, gravity, and your reaction rather than being malicious. Children will throw things because guess what they can do? I can make mommy go get it. This is fun. Think of a dog and a ball, right? Throw the ball, dog go gets it. Well, you are the dog to your child. Woohoo! Look what mommy does. When I do this, mommy's face gets all red. Wow, look at this. When you get angry, it actually gets the kid excited to a certain degree because they made that happen. So think about it that way. This is almost, you're a science experiment to your child, okay? Constant running. I thought of your little girl when when she gets her little bursts. This is driven by an intense physical urge to practice newfound motor skills. She is excited. She can run. Look what I can do. I can run and I can jump and I can hurdle over things. Hiding to poop. As a baby starts to go in a corner and starts to go to the bathroom, they're starting to learn that they need some private, but they're also becoming aware that they can do this. Our modern technology is hurting us in many regards. Actually, diapers today are too good. When a child used to go into cloth diapers, when they went to the bathroom, it was uncomfortable. They didn't like it. The diapers today are so good at removing it from the child's behind that they don't feel it and they can just go and go and go and go and nothing happens. So it's okay to let them feel a little bit of discomfort. So if you're trying to potty train, get them out of the diapers, put them in underwear. Let them feel it. Let them sit in. It sucks. You can get the little plastic things that go over those, but they need to feel what that feels like just so they will stop doing that. So when it's time to potty train, remember that, okay? So this is them learning and they're growing and they're learning about their own little environment, what is safe and what's not safe. All right, next one. Playing side by side. The parallel play is normal. Toddlers do not truly play with their peers yet because right now they're still with you. They're still mimicking things. They still like to kind of come over here and do their own thing. Extreme possessiveness, screaming mine, is how they understand ownership before they grasp sharing. Good morning. This is how, again, they're learning who am I and what can I do. Clinging to parents. This separation anxiety peaks as they realize how big and unpredictable the world is. When they're really little, they typically are in an environment where they're protected and they're safe and they can come and they can go. Once they start to get out of that environment and they're at Walmart, and there's this, as we saw from FIFA, the world is amazed at how big Walmart is. Imagine to a toddler, like there's this playground of people and things. Again, overwhelming. So they often will go through the clinging stage, and then parents feel so and like, oh my gosh, they were bawling. I was so sad. I didn't want to leave them. They're going to be okay. They acclimate to that very quickly. As long as you're showing back up, they remember that. Okay, they'll remember. So I'm going to shift back really quick to object permanence for a child. I have seen it. I did it myself until I learned about it. When you're going to go out, you get a babysitter, or you're dropping them off at daycare, and then they're like, just go ahead and sneak out. I'll get their attention over here, sneak out. Don't do that to your children. What you're doing is teaching them to be anxious. I trusted that mom was behind me, and when I turned around, mom was gone. Now it's, they're hypervigilant. They're not going to walk away for very long because they're going to constantly be looking for you. They learned that when they turned around, you disappear. What you do is practice it before you're going to practice it. Okay, so yours is about to be 2. You are going to the store. Okay, mommy's going to be right back. Mommy's going to be back. They have no concept of time, but you can still do that. You're going to watch Barney for when Barney's over, mommy will be back. Go down to the corner store, pick something up, wait 20 minutes, come back. Because now what she's learning is that when mommy says she's going away, and says she's coming back, she does. They have no concept of time, so keep practicing that. Don't do it all at once. Don't be like, mommy will be back, and then 9 hours later, you show up, okay? Because a minute to a child is a long time, right? And again, I know everybody's not able to always do this, so you do it the best you can, okay? But you're teaching them that I mean what I say. And daddies, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave dads out, but moms typically are the ones dropping them off and stuff. But same thing goes for dad. Do it little pieces at a time so they can start to grasp that mommy means what she says. And you can even say, I really don't want to go, but I have to because mommy has things she has to do. But you're in good hands. You're safe. I left a snack for you, whatever that is. And then before you know it, and you can even give a time, when later in the day when you watch, Mickey Mouse Playhouse, when that one comes on, mommy will be home by that time. So they're going to forget about that until they see it. And they're like, oh, that's right. So, but do your best to make sure you're around that time. Okay. All right. Next video. Slide. I cannot say this enough. Just like with us, routines will save you. We all need them. Children need them more than anyone. Routines, your child's throwing a tantrum. What are you feeling right now? Okay, I see you're really frustrated. Tell me what you're feeling. If they can't give you a word for it, where do you feel it? They might be like, my heart or my head. Where do you feel it in your body? If they can name a feeling, they can start to process it better. So now they're really upset, and they remember last time when they felt this way, it was here. So they walk up to you, and they're like, here. And you're like, oh, okay. You're feeling overwhelmed, mimic something for them. I have seen parents teach very young children sign language, which is awesome. Basic sign language, basic like milk, basic, bed, potty, go to the, food, basic, thank you. Go online, look at YouTube. They'll teach you how to do the very basics. That alone, before they become verbal, can help you with the frustration when they're really upset. All right. So very, very, very basic. And YouTube has it all now. Anybody can go on YouTube and get it. Offer limited choices. Children get overwhelmed very easily. Remember, their world's changing constantly. And so do not open up the refrigerator and go, what do you want to eat? Do not open up their closet and be like, you can wear whatever you want. They're going to have a meltdown because, all right, all of us, how many do you stand in the refrigerator and say, what do I want to eat? How many times have you opened up your closet of 50,000 pairs of shoes and said, I don't have anything to wear, right? What you do with your child is go in their closet, okay, and it doesn't have to be an outfit. You can take out 2 shirts, two pairs of pants, 2 pairs of shoes, 2 pairs of socks, or whatever. Lay it out and say, you can pick out anything from here that you want to wear. And if you're really big and you want your kid to match, then make sure it all comes together and matches. But let them choose which one. Children at toddler age, they need autonomy. They're looking to have some kind of control over their world. And by you allowing them to have choices, they're starting to feel like they're a little bit more in control. That helps cut down on the frustration. So they're in control, they get to choose, they have something that they can work with. Okay? So your goal is to make it small choices though. All right? Buy a timer. Buy an old timer. Buy the little ticking bell timers. Okay? When a child gets in trouble, they're standing in the corner. Your child should be reprimanded based on their age. If they're 1, they stand in the corner for a minute. Because if you make a child stand in the corner for more than a minute, they don't even remember what they did. Nor do they have the focus ability to stand in the corner for longer than that at 1 year old. Okay? At 2, they can stand in the corner for 2. 3, they can stand in the corner for 3. By 4, they're a little more, you can talk to them. You can do a little bit more, but still try to stay toward their age, okay? That timer, you can set that timer right there. Now, what's really cute is by the time if they're 3, they try to start changing the timer. But you can tell them, if you play with the timer, I'm going to make it longer. So give them a timer because it now gives them something to pay attention to. Again, they have no concept of time. So by setting that timer, they're able to look at it, and they know that when it hits this, it's going to bing and it's going to be done. This is the hard thing for us as parents. When it's over, they need reassurance that you still love them. Okay? You do. If they just were biting their brother, you do not have to come back and be like, "Oh my gosh, I love you so much." No. What you can say is, "I was disappointed in your behavior, but let's see what we can do. What can we do now to have a better afternoon?" Just change it. Change it. Show them that you don't hold a grudge. You're not still angry at them. Just that you were disappointed. The behavior that they did was wrong. They paid the consequence for it. Now we're going to move forward. Okay? Sometimes, they can go and they can hug or, kiss the person that they hurt and say sorry. You can teach them that as well. Very basic, though. All of my women in here, we are talkers. We like to talk our children to death. Do you know what your kid hears when you're talking them to death? You guys all watch Charlie Brown. Wah, wah, wah. They do not hear you. Children do not hear you. They see action. Period. They feel hugs. They feel love. That's what they hear. But when you're just droning on and on and on and on, that's complete. That not anything went in. Okay? Except for maybe one word that they picked out that they held on to. And that was it. Okay, so tell them you love them but was disappointed in their choices. And we're going to get to choices eventually. Let them choose. It allows them to have some control. It also allows them to have responsibility for their choice. Okay, this is a big one. At the end of this presentation, there is a book called Parenting with Love and Logic. I'm telling you, it's the greatest parenting book I ever read. I'm not a big person on parenting books, but this particular one actually was amazing. When a child makes a choice, makes a decision, right? Good morning. They have to be responsible for their choice. So you sat them down for lunch, and they took the bowl that you gave them, and they dumped it up down and said, I don't want it. Okay. So what you do is, okay, again, calmly as much as you can, because I know it's so much easier said when we're all sitting in here and the children aren't around to be calm. But you pick up the food and say, you have the right to not eat. You have the right to choose not to eat this, and that's fine. But you're choosing not to eat until we eat at dinner time. Then that's your choice. And they're going to look at you and be like, okay, right? Because this is your only choice. You had this choice. This was what you were going to eat. Now, between now and dinner, they're going to whine about how hungry they are. You cannot give in to them. What they're learning is it's their choice. They didn't eat because of their choice, not you. You didn't make them eat. You're not a bad mom. They can be angry, but all you have to keep saying is, but honey, you chose not to eat. They have to learn that their choices have consequences. And this is going to play out later when they become teenagers. The more you do this now, the more they're going to know that when they become teenagers. Okay? Let them take all their toys out and later play the cleanup game. I had a friend who, if more than one toy was out at a time, they got very anxious. Your children will take every toy out of the toy box because it's a form of control for them. If it's not hurting anybody, let it go. let them take them out. They're playing, whatever. And then when they get done, then you play the cleanup game. Is everybody in here know the cleanup game? Clean up, clean up. And you go around and you make it happy and joyful as you're cleaning up all the toys. They have to learn to clean up after themselves, but they need some control. That's your house. Everything in this house is yours. What is theirs? So when they are able to mess up a little bit with their toys, it makes them feel like this is my place too. Should your children's toys take up over the entire house? No. But we often let it just because it's easier. By allowing them to have a toy box and put it away, it does help them feel like they have a little bit of peace of their own. Okay? All right, next slide. All right, bedtime. You guys, I cannot stress this enough. I have seen parents allow their children to run until they drop. Has anybody ever heard of night terrors? This is where night terrors come from. Exhaustion causes night terrors. Okay? Children need, when they're very little, up to 10 to 12 hours of sleep. Children need their sleep. Teenagers need 9 to 10 hours of sleep. The average teenager today gets between 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Okay? So you think I'm just being sweet and kind and I'm letting my kids stay up? You're actually hurting your child. Your child needs bedtime. So, as you see over here, it says bath, pajamas, short story, sleep. 1, if you read to your child every day, from the time that they're born, your child will have heard over 500,000 words by the time they start kindergarten. Children who are read to often become excellent readers and actually love to read as they get older. Reading to your child should not be just something that you choose. It should be a routine. 1, they enjoy the quality time with you, but 2, it teaches them. They're learning words, they're learning language, they're learning grammatical skills just from hearing you read to them. So there's so many benefits to it. Why it helps? It calms their body and their mind. It builds a healthy sleep habit. So routines for children. As how many of you guys have went to bed and you were fully awake and you just laid there? What do? We try to grab our phone. Some people read. Some people just lay there. Well, having a routine, even as an adult, actually helps your body know it's time to go to sleep. And so if you start it when they're young, this is a habit that will help you so much when they become teenagers. Keep the room on soft lights. Everybody go to the store, go to Home Depot or Lowe's. Get the LED lights out of your bedroom. LED lights are blue light, and they disrupt the nervous system, and they keep your body from producing melatonin. How many of you have teenagers who have those LED lights around the tops of their room? Horrible. Nope, get them out. I have kids who literally have them on, my teenagers that I teach, and they have them on all night long while they're sleeping. I'm like, no, and then they can't figure out why they can't sleep. Get them out of your room. They're hormone disruptors. They disrupt your mood regulation, everything. Get the incandescent lights that we used to use. You can still get them. They're a little more expensive, but get them. The LED, they're awful. These are horrible. These, if you have a child with ADHD, these type of lights are awful for children with ADHD. So the best you can, change back to the old lighting. And if they have the strips in the room, that's fine, but they're not allowed to have them on at night. Maybe about half hour to an hour before they go to bed, they need shut off. If they want to get them in there for decoration, but again, about an hour before bed, they need to be turned off, okay? Turn off TV. I am going to recommend children should never have televisions in their bedrooms. As parents, we do this because it's just easier, especially when we want to watch something and the kids want to watch something. Children, they need constant supervision. I turned on the TV, the regular television. I turned on the TV, and on the TV was a man stabbing someone repeatedly, and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. And this isn't like HBO. This is just regular television. And I was like, what is this? You have no idea what your child's watching when they flip that TV on in the bedroom. And you, as children, you should be able to see that. Also, teenagers will sneak off and they will watch a lot of very scary movies, very things that they shouldn't be watching, and they'll turn it on in the middle of the night while you're sound asleep. So televisions in bedrooms, really thinking about it, even as adults, TV should be a place, or your bedroom should become an oasis of rest, a place where you can go that you're shutting out the rest of the world as much as you possibly can. So if you can get that out of your kids' room as they're little, and it just becomes standard over time, they can always sit downstairs and watch a movie. Maybe you have a separate room, like a family room, and you can watch TV in another room in there, because you can still walk in and it's still easy accessible for you to monitor what your kid's doing, okay? But turn them off and phones off an hour before bedtime. Again, your phones have blue light, and they will stop the brain from producing melatonin. Melatonin is what allows you to fall asleep. They are disruptors. I do have on my phone, if you have an Android, you can actually get an app that actually puts, it changes the filter on your phone, and I do that, and I can show you afterwards how to do it. But even us, having that phone constantly flickering is a disruptor and a hormone disruptor for us as well. Play soft sounds like lullabies or white noise. You can get apps today with tons of white noise. You can go on YouTube and get white noise. White noise is like a blow dryer or a fan or something. If you have a child who has a lot of anxiety, white noise helps a lot. There's also now what we call brown noise. There's different sounds. Check into it and see what calms them. And that's okay. It's like falling asleep. Some people have to have a fan on. That all that is white noise. And your kids can have that too. And if you don't want the fan in there, but you want the app, get an app. But again, the phone's not by their head. I like noise machines because then you're not relying on your phone. So that's an option as well. I shouldn't say noise machines, sound machines. Use a small nightlight if your child is afraid of the dark. Just get a basic one, not an LED one. A little nightlight is fine. All right, next step. All right, 2-year-old bedtime tantrum. So a bedtime tantrum at the age of 2 usually is a sign of extreme fatigue or an attempt to assert independence. When a toddler is overtired, their brain releases cortisol and adrenaline, making it physically harder for them to calm down. Parents are often exhausted at this point and desire to yell and shut the door and scream and walk away is what we normally like to do. So let's go to the next slide. So this is your action plan. Stay calm. I know this sounds really like this is a movie. It's like Nanny McPhee, but it's real. Learning to stay calm when your child is overreacting. Saying the words, I know you're mad, it's bedtime. I hear you. A lot of tantrums come from kids not feeling like they're being heard. So just sit down on the floor. You don't have to say it, just sit down on the floor. That immediately, your presence makes them feel safe. Then you could say, I know you're mad. Okay, I hear you. It's okay. Do not argue. Avoid reasoning with your 2-year-old as to why they need to sleep. Because again, they're 2, they're not going to hear you. Sit next to them on the floor. Offer a hug. If they push away, it's okay. Just sit. Just be. For parents, when you're busy and you have a million things to do, sitting on the floor with your kid can feel very aggravating because you're like, oh my goodness, I got to go get the kitchen done. I got to 3 minutes to a child is an eternity. Okay, at 2. So you sitting there for 3 minutes is not taking up your whole night. So get that out of your head. Nope, I can sit here for 3 minutes. Or even put that into your action plan for the night. I've given myself 30 minutes to get my son to bed. And so if it ends up only taking 10, you're like, woohoo, I got 20 minutes to spare. If it takes all 30, it's okay. It was in my plan. Okay? Don't think that bedtime is 7, so your kids are going to be automatically asleep at 7, and then you're mad all night because it took you a half hour to get them to sleep. You got to work it into your plan as well. They're kids, and every day is going to be different. All right? Okay. I see these ladies over here laughing, and so what I'm going to tell you is we all have done it. We all do it. We all think we feel like we lost out because I told you it was 7 and you got me over here yelling at you at 7:20. We feel like you won. The kid won. Mom lost. Kid won because I'm still standing here. That's not the case. Nobody won and nobody lost. They're just in their own little power struggle because they got a whole lot. I want you all to think about when you have been on the verge of a panic attack. Now let somebody tell you, go to sleep. That's what you're telling this 2-year-old. Right? So remember, just try all of this stuff. Just keep it up there. Breathe. Sit on that floor. Breathe. Some of you, you need to pray. Do what you need to do. Okay? They just want to feel your presence. Right? Next slide, please. Now, when this is all happening, you can give them control. You can say, do you want me to walk you over to the bed, or do you want me to carry you? You're giving them a choice. Would you like mommy to give you a hug, then walk you to the bed? You're still giving them a choice. One, the hug says, mommy still loves me. Even though I know I was over here throwing a fit, mommy still loves me. So you're now giving them a choice, but you're pushing them toward the goal, right? It's not, hey, let's go in the kitchen and get you something to eat. Hey, let's go in the kitchen and get you a drink of water. They will start to play that thing, though, as they get a little bit older. But you can stop it, right? So you can say, it's 7. Let's say they go to bed at 7. You want to start, especially once you start potty training, you got to start cutting that off early anyhow. And you could say, you know what? It's 6 o'clock. This is your last drink before you go to sleep. What would you like to drink? Orange juice or milk, orange juice or water, whatever it is. Now they have a choice, and now they also know this is my last drink before I go to bed. You're setting it up. And so when it's bedtime and they want to go get that next drink, you know what? Remember at 6 when we said that was your last drink? Well, that was your last one, but you can choose to have this or this for breakfast tomorrow morning. And you can choose whichever cup you want out of da-da-da-da. You're giving them choices, and you're giving something to look forward to. So you're not saying no, you're just telling them that their next choice is going to happen this time. Now, is this going to be smooth always? No, but it's practice and practice and practice. If you give in and you go get them that drink, don't be mad when they do it tomorrow, because you just showed them that you don't mean what you say. All right, speak softly. When a child's screaming and you start whispering, they will lower their voice because they can't hear you. Whisper. Okay? So somebody's screaming, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Or I'm sorry that you're upset. And they're going to be like, hey, what? Just keep getting lower and lower. Okay? So stick to your routine. Go through your usual steps like a story or a song, even if it's delayed. They were supposed to be in bed at 7. It is now 7:25. You can do a shorter book, but still go through your routine. Don't completely cut it off. This helps to regulate their central nervous system. They still have that routine, and when their routine is disrupted, it's still going to throw them off. Okay? Keep the room dark, so when you get in there and it's bedtime, turn it down. You might even be just sitting there by the nightlight. I have a book light that I clip onto a book if I'm reading at night, so that it's right there. You can even have that, so if you're still going to do story time, the room itself has been turned down, but you have a little nightlight so you can do the book reading. So once that light goes down and it dims, it's telling their brain it's time to go to sleep. So little by little by little, it's going to calm them. And once they're calm, they're going to be more apt to listen and be guided to what it is that you're trying to show them. Okay, next one. Did I? Yeah, I did. Okay. Don't let the science overwhelm you. How many of you feel that no matter what you do with your kids, it's never enough? Only one of you? Oh, come on. Let's see those real hands. Feel like it's never enough. You're never a good enough parent. You're always failing. How many of you often feel like a failure at the end of the day because you yelled? How many of you have cried because you yelled? Okay, you ready for the research? Next slide. No parent is perfect, and children do not need flawless role models. Children are highly adaptable and forgiving. They will thrive when caregivers are present, authentic, and willing to admit your mistakes. They don't remember the yelling. They remember how your action was. So you yelled, you lost your temper. Come back the next day. You know what, Mommy last night was really tired, and I yelled, and I shouldn't have yelled. I'm sorry. That's it. You move on. You don't make a big old ordeal about it. You just show your children, because what you're showing your children is that you can be humble. that you can also admit when you're wrong. Because as teenagers, they're going to model what you taught them. They are going to grow up to be you at your worst, unfortunately. So the more you can model that, the better. And you're not going to be perfect at it, and you're still going to fall, and you're still going to forget, and that's okay. You just, every day, you just keep making the choices to come back and do it again and again and again. All right, next slide, please. All right, so when you make a mistake, you can repair it easily. Acknowledge the error. State exactly what went wrong to validate the child's perspective, okay? Own your behavior. Do not say, Mommy yelled because you weren't listening. Now all you did was just put it right back on them, right? So it's, again, I was really tired, and I should have controlled myself better. I didn't think through our bedtime routine, and I didn't do that, and I'm sorry. I should have done that. I'll be better next time. I'll try to do better next time. Own what you did. Don't just blame it on them. Give your child physical affection or spend time doing a shared activity to reinforce your bond, okay? You know when you've been mad at your husband or your boyfriend, and I'm going to say this because it's almost all women, or when you're mad at your wife because she's irritating you, okay? Do you want to hold their hand? How many times you've been sitting next to them and your hand's there and their hand's there and you're purposely not touching their hand because you're just mad, right? And you're going to let them know how mad you are by not touching their hand. Children feel it too. Children often will get very clingy after that because it's like, ooh, Mommy didn't want to hug me. Mommy normally hugs me. Daddy normally picks me up and gives me a piggyback ride. He didn't. Children will hold on to that and start to, this is, you know that whole saying, I am enough? Children start learning I'm not. Because if I was enough, Mommy and Daddy would have done this. They would have done this. This is where they start getting into their head that I have to do this and this and this and this to earn Mommy's love. By simply putting your pride aside, your ego, your parenting ego aside, and immediately after this whole little meltdown, all of this stuff happened, and then you both hugged, you've admitted where the fault lies, the choices you've done with that, then you say, hey, you know what? You want to go build a little Lego house. You may not be in the mood to build a Lego house, but that 3-minute exercise of building the Lego house and then knocking it down and being like, woohoo, okay, now Mommy's going to go make lunch, just did years of repair just in that one little 3-minute activity. But often our pride and anger and ego gets in the way, and then we allow the kid who cannot control themselves at this age, we put it all on them. And then we feel even worse later because we put it all on them. Okay, next one, please. All right, rebuilding the behavior. So something happens. So you say, I raised my voice instead of I got mad. Okay, so you're deciding the words that you're going to start using on how you do this behavior. Validate their feelings. Acknowledge the impact and say, that must have felt really scary when Mommy was screaming at you. That must have felt really scary, and I'm sorry. I lost my temper. Toddlers need short explanations like, Mommy was tired, but it's not your fault. Teens can handle a deeper conversation. I'm really sorry. It's been a really rough week at work, and I snapped at you, and I wasn't mad at you. I was angry about a situation, and that's my fault. And I'm going to try to be better with that next time. Again, your teen, though, doesn't need to know everything that just happened at work with your boss. But you can give them a snippet, right? Because all you're doing is adding to. Believe it or not, how many teenagers do we have out there? Teenagers take on your pain. Teenagers think it's their job to fix everything and to make sure you're okay. They'll never tell you, but they will do it. And so they take on your worries. They take on your worries without the actual ability to take on your worries, right? Because the cognitive isn't there yet. Let's say, skip the defense. Instead of saying, I yelled because you wouldn't listen, keep the focus entirely on your reaction. Demonstrate the change. Show them what you will do next time. Say, next time I feel frustrated, I'm going to take a deep breath first. Little kids will remind you, you didn't take a deep breath, Mom. Oh, you're Okay. I remember when my daughter was, I think she was 4, and I came home, and my husband said, "There's a picture on the the table for you," and I picked it up, and it was this red skeleton-looking face that was bright red. I said, "What's this?" And he said, "She said that's what mommy when she's mad." I'm going to tell you, if that didn't humble me, right? Oh my gosh, it was horrible. So, um, with toddlers, looking down. Okay, do you know that an ant doesn't know that you're human? You exist outside of the ant world. You're not even a part of an ant's world. You're too big. You are not a part of their. Um, it's like, I don't know, a spaceship. Like, we have stuff up here in satellites, but we don't pay attention to them because they're not in our orbit, right? An ant's not paying attention to you because you're so big. You are that to a child. Like, you're a part of their world, but you are so large, looming over them. Get down on their level. Sit down and talk to a child. And if you have a hard time getting on the floor, get down and sit down in a seat and face them. Face them face to face. Don't scream at them across the room because, again, they're focused on something else anyhow, and they're only hearing half of what you say. Get down. Look at mommy. Listen. We have to talk about what just happened. And you can even ask them, what do you think just happened? And it's interesting to see what a child thinks happened. Oh, yeah, because it's going to be very different than what you thought happened. Also, when you get down on the floor, you see the world from your child's perspective. Get down on the floor or get down in a chair and talk to them face to face. The more you practice face-to-face conversation when they're little, the more face-to-face conversation you'll get when they're older. Okay? We expect our teenagers to be little adults. We expect them to be a certain way, but we never taught them to be that way. We just expect them to be that way. So we have to practice it as they're growing the best we can to set up those routines at that space. I was just talking to a client in a counseling session today, explaining to them, we are all creatures of habit. Everything we do in our life is a routine. Everything. If you're an alcoholic and you come home and you sit down every day in the recliner and you grab a beer, and then and that's what you do every day. When you go to get sober and you come home from work and you sit down in that recliner, the brain says, the body actually says, ooh, I know what I do when I sit in this recliner. I have a beer. So then it then signals the brain to have a craving to go get a beer because you're a creature of habit. And so habits form over time, and they're very hard to break. We raise our children with all of these things, and then when they get a little bit older and their brain and body changes, we expect them to know better. But how do they know better? We never taught them, right? And so I cannot reiterate this enough. Build the behavior you want to see. Routine, 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 and always remember they're watching you. Every teenager that I've ever worked with, including my own, would say, mom doesn't follow through with what she says. Do you know how many teenagers I've had walk in and say, yeah, I'm grounded, but it'll be over in a couple of days because mom always lets me off the hook. So your discipline doesn't stick because they know you don't stick to it. When my mom is do what I say but not what I do. Your children watch you. And so your behavior has to be consistent with your kids. Okay, moving forward. Hugs. Why do hugs matter? Hugging your child is not just a nice feeling. It acts as physical medicine for their growing bodies and minds. Hugs release oxytocin. Okay, oxytocin, this is the feel-good hormone that makes a child feel safe and calm. Stress. Hugs lower cortisol. Cortisol is the chemical in the brain that causes stress. And touching and hugging can actually boost a child's immune system. It keeps their bodies growing properly. So several years ago, there was this young boy who was way smaller than what he should have been. And he was in a home where the stepfather was very abusive, alcoholic. And the mom had recently left him and started taking the son to the doctor saying, something's wrong. He's so much smaller. He had a twin sister, and he's so much smaller than her. I don't know what to do. And you know what the doctor, again, old school doctor, you know what he told her? Take him home and hug him. Hug him every day. Just start hugging on him. He grew 7 inches in 1 year. That was my twin brother. Hugging your child does more than you could ever begin to imagine. Research actually now shows that it takes 7 hugs a day to feel loved. How many times do we hug not only our children, but our husbands or wives or family members? Hugging is so much bigger than what we think. But your children need hugs all day long. Never, ever, ever take your hugs away from your kids, no matter how angry you are at them. They need that. You need that, because it goes both ways. Okay. Next one. Quality versus quantity. Okay, how many people have very busy routines? Okay. So, even busy schedules can fit both hugs and quality time. Morning routines. Give your child a big hug before they leave every day. Meals. Eat dinner together without the TV on. Talk about your day. You do not have to have a sit down at a dining room table formal meal. It can be a 15-minute, everybody's just eating away as fast as you can, and that's okay. If you don't have a table, turn off the television and everybody's sitting around the living room. Everything is focused. And have a conversation. And it could be, tell me 2 good things that happened today, 2 funny things that happened today. What did you like about today? And then you can have you can start it with, what was one hard thing that happened today for you? When they're little, it could be, Bobby pushed me on the playground. When they start to hit their teenage, it can be, my teacher was really mean to me. And I'm going to tell all of you right now, teachers are not always right. I'm a teacher. And I could tell you, teachers lie. Teachers can be vindictive. Teachers can be mean. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Mills, hated me and my twin brother, lied on us viciously daily. Has anybody ever seen the cartoon Recess? Remember the Miss Finch with the little glasses and she was 86 years old, my first grade teacher. And she held us back our first grade year and had us psychologically tested because that's saying that there's something wrong with us. My mom always believed her. And then every time I came home with a note from my teacher, who the sealed envelope was horrifying, give it to my mom, I would get a beating because something bad was in that note. So second year of first grade, I had her again. And it was even worse than that, guys. She was teaching first and second grade, so they divided the classroom. First grade was on one side, second grade was on the other. All my friends were on the second grade side, and I was not allowed to talk to them or play with them on the playground. Talk about psychological damage there, but that's a whole nother conversation. So it was my second year of having her. Came home. We lived right around the corner from my school, and I had the envelope and walked in the door. Mom was not anywhere in the house to be found. Thank you, Lord. So I put it on the desk and then went about my weekend because Mom never found the note, apparently. Went back to school, completely forgot about the note. I'm on the playground playing with my friends when I hear my teacher screaming my name. I look up and she's marching across the playground, grabs me by my ear, shoves me down, and is pulling me across the playground. And apparently in the note, there was a meeting that my mom didn't hear about. So they had called my mom and said, I never got the note. Well, they didn't realize that she lived around the corner, so my mom was already there. So as my teacher is pulling me into the school building, my mom is standing at the other end of the hallway with her mouth open, and then ended up going off on the teacher and came home that day and apologized and cried because for a year and a half she believed this teacher and everything she said. So I'm not saying there's a lot of wonderful teachers, but there are mean teachers. So if your child repeatedly is telling you something, please don't just blindly trust the teacher is telling the truth. You need to advocate for your child as well. I'm not saying make excuses for them, but advocate for them. Check in. Also, parents who are consistently checking in will make sure that your teacher stays in line to make sure your kid's getting what they need. Okay? So the eating, the routine, again, TV, you need to eat together. Parents, the community is so important to a child, and we don't have it anymore. It needs to happen. Bedtime routine, read a book or talk before bed. Again, that routine, even with toddlers. Every child needs that. As your kids get a little bit older, if you have 2 phones, go out of the room. I will charge your phone in my bedroom. Okay? Period. 1 that shows them, Mom can get in my phone anytime she wants, so she will see what's in my phone. 2, you know that they are not on their phone at 2:00 in the morning. I have high school students that come to school and they can barely keep their eyes open, and they tell me that they were up texting their boyfriend, or they like to fall asleep on FaceTime with their boyfriends and girlfriends, and they will stay awake till 3:00 in the morning on their phones, and they're 15, 16 years old. All the time. Okay. I had one young man who fell asleep every day, and I finally was like, honey, what is going on? Well, he told me that his grandpa came in from Puerto Rico, and they were staying up until 5:00 in the morning playing video games every day. He said, but I never get to see my grandpa. I said, okay, honey. I said, but not on school nights, like you need to do. So I messaged mom. Mom comes in for conference, and then mom says, well, yeah, he's been really excited because his grandpa came in, and he didn't get to spend time with him, so they've been playing video games. I said, but he's staying up till 5 a.m. I know, and I said, but I hate to do that because he never sees him. I said, well, when does grandpa go back to Puerto Rico? Well, he's living with us now. Okay. Kid still proceeded for the remainder of the time I had him, was staying up because mom never took it away. You have to advocate for your children because they don't know how to advocate for themselves. Their wants will completely override what they need to do because that part hasn't developed yet. Okay? All right, so little moments. Don't complicate it. Engage in everyday chores or car rides by simply just talking to them. Little conversations. Another one, all my parents need to hear this. My kids constantly tell me, my high school students, my mom's on her phone more than I am. I try to talk to mom, and she's on social media. My mom is always on social media, even when I try to talk to her. So it's not just our kids. It's us. Okay, next slide, please. All right, ready? Bad attention. Bad attention is better than no attention. A child who is not getting attention at home will go find it somewhere else. Even if that means jumping off his desk in class and smacking a kid upside the head, because if he's going to get mom to come down here, at least mom's paying attention to him. At least dad knows I'm alive. Bad attention is better than none. Children need attention. If you don't give it to them, they will seek it somewhere else. That's just a fact. They need you. When they're really little, they need you. As they get older, you're going to miss it because they don't need you anymore, or they don't think they need you anymore, and that's when they stop communicating. And so bad attention is effective for them to get your attention. But unfortunately, we often just see what they did versus, whoa, I need to take a look. Why are you acting out at school? What is happening? We often think, oh, it's a bully, or it literally could just be they miss you, and they don't ever get to talk to you anymore. So I had a high school girl come to me. She was like 16. And she said, she was just in tears. And she said, me and my dad used to be really close. And she said, as I became a teenager, it became harder and harder for us to talk. And I said, have you ever told him that? And she was like, I don't know how to tell my dad that. Like, he's just always busy, and he comes home and he's exhausted. He works second shift. And she said, I don't really see him very often, but I miss him. And I said, write him a letter. And I said, write him a letter. And I said, and none of it's about you're doing this or you're not. I said, just express, I miss you. I miss our talks. I miss spending time with you. Put it on you, how much you miss him. So she wrote him a letter. And I said, then leave it for him to find it when you're not around. Let him process it, right? So she came back, and she was like, he got the letter, and she's like, and it's getting better. Like, he is carving out time to spend with me a little bit. Not unreasonable, but a little bit. About 2 months later, it's conferences time, and I had a dad show up. And he comes up to me, and he says, I had to meet you. He said, you changed me and my daughter's life. And he pulls out his wallet, and he opens up the letter that his daughter wrote him. And he cried. And he just was like, I had no idea. She's a teenager. I just thought she didn't want anything to do with me. So I let her be. Your kids miss you. They just don't know how to tell you sometimes. They don't know how to approach it sometimes. So you being in their life might feel annoying, but they genuinely love you being there. Maybe not like you were when they were younger, but they do appreciate and value you being around, just in different ways as they get older. And we'll get to that as we get to teenagers. All right, next slide, please. You're not your child's servant. Many parents think they have to do everything for their child, answering their every whim, feeling that if they don't play with them, read to them, sing with them, that they are being a bad parent and it's hurting their child. No, you are not a bad parent. Children need space. They need time to be bored. They need quiet time. It helps them to learn how to self-soothe, okay? Imagination kicks in when a child or a teenager has been bored, everybody hear this, for 5 straight minutes. They do not need a TV on or a music or something every second of every moment. Without that 5 minute of quiet time, their imagination's not kicking in. One of the biggest things that we're seeing with young kids today is children's ability to focus. It gradually gets better as they get older. These little kids that are entering into elementary school right now have no ability to focus at all because they're being raised on screens, which means when your child gets to school and they're not being entertained every second of every moment, they're not going to be able to sit still. They're not going to be able to focus on what that teacher's telling them to do. They need instant gratification because their brain is addicted to instant gratification because you gave them a phone or a tablet or a video game every second of every moment because it kept them quiet while you did what you needed to do. Take them away. Let them go in their room and build with some blocks. Do some coloring. You don't have to figure out the activity. I don't know. It's your self-soothing. It's your time. It's your quiet time. Go in your room, see what you can figure out. You are not to be the one that fills every moment. It's not your job, okay? And you ready for this? You also need balance and time for yourself, okay? Workers, somebody said this once and I was like, whoa. Workers will always be given work. If you are always working, people will find you to give you work because they think you love it. They think, oh, well, that's what you do, so let me just pile some more on. Your children will see it too. If you are running around and you are the one that cleans and you're the ones that cooks and you're the one that does the laundry and you're always harping about it and angry about it, but to them, that's what you do. Why are you mad at me? You're the one that does it. So children need to see that you also need some time. And when I say time, don't be telling your kid, okay, mommy's got 2 hours, I'm going to go take a nap and I'm going to go take a bubble bath and I'll be back in 2 hours. They can't handle that. But you having 30 minutes, listen, this is your quiet time. 30 minutes, not at 2. But 30 minutes, I'm going to go read. You go read. Okay? I'm going to go have a little bit. Mommy needs a little downtime. You get your 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes, we can meet back in here and we can go make ourselves a snack or whatever that is that you want to do. But you're allowed to have quiet time too. And you need that quiet time. You need to work that into your life. As a therapist, one of the reasons I see so many people have complete meltdowns and mental breakdowns is because you never take time for you. And I hear people all the time go, well, I don't have time for you. Well, are you delegating anything to anybody or are you trying to do it all by yourself? Because if you're trying to do it all by yourself, you have nobody to blame but you. And now when people say, well, if I don't have anybody else, okay. But you can still set up a schedule in your life where you're scheduling in that time, that me time. You need that me time. And so what I will say is I bet if you looked at your scrolling and your doom scrolling on social media, you could probably find an hour and a half a day that you could actually have taken some time for just you. So look at your day. Go through, pick out, look at what your schedule looks like. Are you spending unnecessary time? Is your kid old enough to help with laundry? Is your kid old enough to do chores that you could be taking a little bit of time for yourself? Also, if you don't teach your children how to clean, you are not helping them become an adult. You're hurting them significantly because when they hit 20 and they're getting kicked out of their apartment because they never clean it and bugs and stuff are coming because they never learned how to take care of themselves, it's because you didn't teach them. Chores are good. Chores are very good for your kids and they need them. Even little ones. They can walk around and help you pick up things and do things and make it fun. Okay, so you have a 3-year-old that needs to take some medicine. Pour the medicine in 2 cups, and pick out 2 cups. They get to choose the cup, okay? Then give them the cup. After they're done, make a big deal. You can learn, and when they take medicine, they get the medicine dance. Make up a little dance. Kids love to have these little things. Little kids, make up handshakes. Anything that's special, that's only the 2 of you, that makes them feel so good. Me and mommy have this special shake. And then dad, you can have your own little special handshake. So, but make it a big deal when they do these little things, especially when they're little, right? Because then it's like, oh, mommy noticed I did it. This is so exciting. I want to do it again. So especially stuff they don't like to do. Talk and read to your children daily. I cannot say that enough. Build them up. Tell them that they are awesome. Why? Because every day that they're no longer in your presence, the world is going to tell them how much they suck. They need to know how great they are. Not perfect. Do not tell them that they are the most beautiful singer on the face of the earth, that they go out and embarrass themselves when they're 18 because they can't sing. I'm not saying that. Don't do anything unrealistic. But you talk about their heart. You talk about their empathy. You talk about the way that they do things. You've never seen anybody be able to do that. You have to build them up and give them something to be proud of, okay? Because they're going to go out and everybody out there is going to be awful. And then we all know, what do children do, especially as they become preteen and teenagers? They compare themselves to everybody around them. They need to know why they are amazing. Do as much as you can when they're little. And then the world will tell them the opposite. You have a short window to build them up and to prepare them for what's coming. Okay, next slide, please. Do a dinner routine where kids of all ages tell 2 positive events. We talked about this. You can add what was one thing that really challenged you today. It could have been an assignment, a relationship with a friend, a teacher, or even their own fears that kicked in. How did they handle it? What would they do differently if they could go back and do it again? So if they're at school and they're like, I was really embarrassed because, we had to read. Okay, well, what could your child do? Have them answer it. Don't you answer it for them. Don't be like, well, I told you need to read more. Okay, now they just feel like a failure all over again, right? Because that's what we do. What could you do? You got scary when you had to stand up and read. So what do you think you could do? I could practice reading. Okay, well, Mommy could help you with that. Why don't we could add like 5 extra minutes of reading? Would that work for you? You pick out the book, because we love doing that. I told you that was going to happen. I told you if you weren't reading, you were going to be embarrassed. Okay, now you're just kicking them while they're down, right? And so letting them, how could have I done that differently? Okay, so I didn't, kid made fun of me today because my hair was sticking up. Okay, well, what happened this morning? When we were trying to go out, we were trying to go to school. I didn't want to get out of bed. Okay, did you get time to comb your hair? Nope. So what might we do differently tomorrow morning? Right? And so, or teach them to prepare the night before. One of my biggest things that teenagers face in high school that are late to school every day is because they can't find clothes to wear. And I consistently say, well, how about picking them out the night before? This is a foreign concept to teenagers. But if you start doing it with them when they're younger, make them do it, they're more likely to do it because they see how easy it is to jump out of bed really quick and do the things they need to do, and their clothes are ready, and they're already ready for them. And they know where their shoes are, right? Dear Lord, I had 7 brothers and sisters, so imagine trying to find shoes. I went to church one time, I think I was 9, and I looked down and I had 2 different shoes on. One was my mom's. Oh, it was fabulous. Oh, and then one time I wore a shirt of hers. I thought it was a dress. That's a whole other story. My childhood was a mess. Anyhow, since why I became a therapist. Do a dinner routine with your kids of all ages. Oh, can we go to the next slide before I repeat this again? Okay, tweens. How many of you guys have the tweens? Oh, God bless you. All right. Tween behavior is characterized by mood swings, a growing desire for independence that breaks our hearts, social awareness, and rapid physical and cognitive changes between the ages of 9 and 12. The onset of puberty, which can include growth spurts, body, odor, acne, hormonal fluctuations. These changes also often lead to clumsiness, self-consciousness, and heightened sensitivity about their appearance. I grew like a weed. I was very, very tall. I towered over everyone, and I consistently tripped over my feet. I wear a size 10, and so as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, I tripped over myself constantly. Next slide, please. All right. They develop more complex thinking and problem-solving skills, entering the metacognition state where they can reflect on their own thoughts and those of others. This cognitive growth often leads to questioning authority, testing boundaries, and seeking autonomy, separation from you. Mood swings are common due to hormonal shifts and increased sensitivity. Tweens may alternate between affection and irritability, and they often seek privacy as they form a stronger sense of who they are separate from you. Again, it hurts. Next slide, please. Okay, what happened to my sweet baby? Peer influence becomes increasingly important at this age. Tweens may experiment with different personalities, styles, social behaviors to establish an identity. Tweens often challenge rules and assert individuality, which is a normal part of developing autonomy. Closed doors, secretive conversations, reluctance to share details are typical as tweens seek their own personal space. Rapid shifts in mood from laughter to tears are common and reflect both hormonal and cognitive changes. Tweens may also prioritize their friends' opinions. This is where it gets scary because they start looking to their friends for answers versus you, right? Okay, next slide. Brain changes. Okay, everybody. The change. This is so important as you get into this stage because you are going to cry, especially if your baby went from sweet to a monster overnight. Why, when you try to surprise them to go do their favorite thing and they put their earbuds in and look like they're bored. And you're like, but we always did this and this always made you happy and it no longer does. So the tegmental, this is the ventral tegmentic segue in the brain. Now I'm just going to give it to you without all the science stuff behind it. Remember when your little one could go outside and you could blow bubbles for 45 minutes and they were like, ah! Every time you blew a bubble, it was the greatest thing that ever happened for 45 minutes and then you're tired. So the only reason it stopped was because you needed to go take a nap or a rest, right? Then, because everything's new and exciting. Well, they have in their brain dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger that brings joy. Joy, 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 all the time. Everything's so exciting. Everything's brand new. And they're jumping around, and this is why they don't ever want to go to sleep because they don't want to ever miss anything. I remember being a kid watching my mom take a nap and think, that makes no sense to me. Why do you want to sleep? There's so much to do. Well, one day, your little tween is sitting on the step in the backyard looking out at all the stuff they used to do and think, how did I play back here for hours? How did I ever do this? That's crazy. I would be so bored. Well, because back then, the dopamine was flowing, joy. There was joy in every imagination, everything that you did. And then this happens. That part of the brain where the dopamine used to flow, it starts to close. And it technically doesn't close. It's a synaptic cleft, but that's a whole different scientific situation. So it's closing. So what used to be the waterfall now becomes like a drippy faucet. You're getting a drip of dopamine where you used to get a waterfall of dopamine. Your children no longer feel pleasure like they once did. They no longer feel joy like they once did. Isn't that sad? Really think about that. So what scientists believe the reason why this happens is if your kid was always happy to be with you, blowing bubbles and jumping around and jumping on beds, they would never leave home. They would never find a person for themselves. They would never start a family. They would never leave because this would be enough. Scientists believe this is what forces our children to go out and find their own life. They're seeking someone else to match them, right? So it's beautiful when you look at it. It's just really, really hard for us because that's our babies. And we know that the world is big and crazy and scary, and it's scary the thought of them going out there to do that. So we often pull harder because we don't want this to happen, which makes them push away harder because they need it to happen. So when you are about to do something that you think is just the most fabulous thing that you have ever done, and your daughter looks at you and is like, this is so boring, Mom. And she just wants to go sit in her room, and you're just like, what? And now you're angry because you did all of this mess, and she doesn't want anything to do with it. You got to ask yourself, did she want it or did you? Because it's not about you. At this stage, it becomes about the both of you separately. Are you setting them up for safety? They can have their autonomy as long as you're creating the safety. They can have their autonomy. You're there to help when they need you. When they have a question, without lecturing them, giving them some advice, giving them some feedback. That's what you're becoming for them. And a lot of times it's so hard because we don't want to let go, which makes their behavior actually worse because we don't want to let go. And so let's go back in history. We didn't have the problems that we have today with teenagers because there was a sort of things that happened, right? When you turned 18 in the 1950s, you went out and you got a job, or you went to school, or you started your life. Today, the average person is sticking around home, I think, till they're 28. It's never happened before. And in some cultures, if it did happen, it was because they were multi generations, but they lived with almost in a community, not necessarily just a house. It was more of, houses next to each other or whatever. And they stayed together, but they still had their separate spaces. It hurts. But this is true, because you see this a lot in women, like, oh my gosh, what happened? Now again, and I just want to remind all of you, there are always exceptions to the rule. In science, in social science, there's never 100% because human beings are different. So, but this is the norm. Okay, all right. So prior to where we live now, okay, and I blame COVID a lot, but this was happening even before COVID. This was the importance of community. We used to have where you would go to the butcher and you had a conversation with your butcher, and then you went to the cashier and you had a conversation with the cashier, and you went to the dry cleaners and you had a conversation with the dry cleaners, and you went to church and the pastor knew your family, and then you had all of these social things. So your children had all of this village. And so when they no longer listened to mom, there was another woman waiting for them. It was an auntie or a grandma or the next door neighbor or their teacher or somebody that would be able to guide them. And the mom felt safe because even though she wasn't coming to me anymore, I knew my sister was going to be good and take care of her. Our children don't have communities anymore. Our children are going to social media for that voice. They're going to the kids at school for that voice. They're not going to adults. This is why, if you have younger ones, you need to have established a girlfriend, an auntie, a grandmother, somebody in your community that you trust, and you need to build a relationship for your child with that woman, or if it's an uncle that you trust, because there's going to come a time where they no longer want you, and you need to be able to pass them to them. And you teach them, if you're struggling and you can't talk to me, it's okay if you go and talk to Aunt Jocelyn. And we all know it doesn't have to actually be a relative, right? We all had those aunt and uncles that weren't actually related, and that's okay. Teachers are sometimes that voice for kids. A coach can be a voice for kids. But you need to make sure you know them and you trust them, okay? That is so important, because your girls are going to leave you, and they're not coming back for a while. Sorry. Sorry. Next slide. Engage in in problem. So I think I put this out of context. Okay. So when we talk about behavior, point out a problem and ask for their input. If your child weighs in on the possible solutions, they're likely more motivated to improve their behavior. So when you're having an issue with your tweens, okay, so we already know the brain has changed. Girls, we know the brain has changed. Now as these problems are starting to come in problem solving, do not just say to your kid, well, you need to do this, because they're not going to hear you. Okay, so present the problem. All right, you didn't do your homework and you got an F. There's a consequence. There has to be a consequence. So what do you think your consequence should be? And if they say, well, I should be able to watch TV, that's obviously not a consequence. So what is a real consequence? Let them put their input. You can always tweak it. I think I should have my phone taken away for 3 days. Okay, that sounds reasonable. All right, but in the midst of those 3 days, what are you going to, you're not going to be watching TV, so what are you going to be doing? I'm going to be doing extra work. I'm going to be working more on my math. I'm going to do, they have to have a reasonable, and you can tell them, if you don't come up with a reasonable consequence, I will come up with one. So they'll be more likely to do a better consequence. Okay, but give them a choice in hearing it. And moms, I don't care. My daughter used to write me letters, how much she loved me and how sorry she was, knowing that I would give in. Don't do it. Don't do it. Make them wait those 3 days. Don't give in, because they will learn very quick that you will give in, and they know it. And they'll just hold out for a day, because you're going to... And what a lot of... Okay, really quickly, make sure that your consequence is reasonable. Do not tell your child that they are grounded for a month. Are you prepared to talk to your child for a month? Are you prepared to not allow your child to watch television for a month? Are you prepared to have that child sitting in front of you for a month? No, you are not, which means you are going to give in, and you're going to get them off the hook in 3 days after they're driving you crazy. Be reasonable, okay? 100% reasonable. Okay, you're grounded for 3 days. Take away the phone. You can't see the TV. You need to read. You need to find something else to do. Stick with it, but make it reasonable. Younger ones, shorter time frames. If you got a 5-year-old, make it a day. Make it an afternoon, because your 5-year-old will drive you crazy by the end of that day. Do not do it, because they have to have something to do. And either that, they're going to follow you around everywhere and drive you crazy, so you will not stick with that. Okay? Natural consequences. It's okay for kids to fail sometimes and to learn from their mistakes. Everyone, your child forgets his homework. Do not run it up to the school. I see this happen all the time. At high school, I didn't bring my backpack. Mom's dropping. How old are you? You're 17 and mom is running up here to drop off your backpack? No, don't do it. Your child needs to learn the consequences of their actions. You told them to put the book bag by the door. They didn't do it, so they forgot it. Let them deal with the consequences. As a high school teacher, I have parents who, their kids about to fail. I teach college, I teach upper level classes where these kids need these classes to graduate. And they do nothing. I mean, nothing. No assignments turned in. And then 2 weeks before graduation, we have parents beating down our doors to see if their kid can make up an entire semester worth of work so they can graduate. And guess what? Our administration lets it happen. Almost every school out there has basically been told you can't fail kids. And the kids know it. I had students miss 80 days of school and still graduated because the state's no longer doing anything with truancy. And the kids know it. When they don't come to school, they can still pass. They can still do their makeup work. They can get it all turned in. I asked my principal, I said, what's the difference then? I have seniors first period, more than half the class doesn't show up, but they all still have B's. I go, what's the incentive for the other kids to even come when they know that nobody else does? Why do they show up? Make your kids have consequences, because guess what? The world's going to make them have consequences. When they don't show up at work, they're fired. When they don't do their work, their assignment for work, they're fired. When they're late 3 times in a row, they're fired. And that's a devastation, especially if they have a car payment or car insurance or something they have to do. And who do we have to blame? Us, because we never enforced any of it. And as a teacher, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not my responsibility to raise your children. But it has become teachers' responsibility. It is all put on our shoulders to regulate their behavior, regulate what they're saying, regulate what they're doing, making sure that they're doing their homework, making sure they're studying for tests. It all falls on us. And when that kid fails, we get blamed, because parents no longer take responsibility for their kids. All right, and that's why the federal school system, our school system, is failing miserably. Okay, next. Tweens want to feel respected and more grown up. Instead of a reward system, your child might be more receptive to having their behavior modified through conversation. So for instance, your teen is raising their voice and is being very rude. You could say something like, I think you've forgotten how we speak to each other in this family. Would you like to try that again? If they do it appropriately the second time, then praise them. Thank you, that was much better. And then move on. Don't go on and on about it. Don't drone on. My mom, my gosh, we used to say she was going to talk us to death. We'd rather she just beat us and get it over with. Like, it was insane, okay? That's why I'm a talker now, because my mom gave me this ability, which is good. But kids, when you are talking your teen to death, they are not hearing you. They are not. In their head, they have the appropriate look on their face so that you don't say, get that look off your face. They put that on, and then they tune you out until you're done. Yes. So be right there with them. Nope, we don't talk like that here. Let's try that again. And then don't be mad. Again, don't let your ego get in the way. If it's better the second time, okay. All right, now what was it? Let's go on. Let's move forward. Don't hold a grudge. You don't want them to hold a grudge. You don't hold the grudge. Okay, next one. Silence. How many of you have the kid who argues with you all the time? Okay. Sometimes the only discipline that works with a kid who's a talker is silence, because kids gain control through arguing with you. So by being silent, they can't handle it. It is my daughter was a talker. She would argue about anything. And I finally realized, oh my gosh, she just wants to argue because 1, it's attention. 2, she's be able to get under my skin. So I started getting silent. Oh my goodness, you should see the letters I got with that one. And she would literally stand at my door and cry because I wouldn't talk, depending on the behavior and how bad it was. So you have child is arguing with you and is being disrespectful. You can say, when you talk to me like that, I have the right to not answer you because you're being rude and disrespectful. Okay, I have a right. When you are respectful and you apologize for this conversation, we can continue. Okay, if they continue to be disrespectful, don't answer them back. You've already told them you're being disrespectful. You don't have the right to speak to them this way, and I don't have to listen. And if they continue, walk away. Walk away and get busy doing something else. And you can say, when you know how to talk to me, we'll carry this conversation on. Walk away. Now, 5 minutes go by, they come up and say, I appreciate that you've come back and that you've apologized, but now I'm in the middle of something, so we're going to have to wait a little bit. They have to learn that there's also consequences. Just because you've decided that you're better now doesn't mean that I have to bend to your whim. So now I'm in the middle of something. Give me 15 minutes, finish this up, and then I'll meet you in your room. Right? If they don't like that and they come back and they say, never mind, I don't want it, because they're going to, say, okay, well, if it comes back up again, come find me. Walk away. Don't sit there and beg them to tell you what it was. That is a power play on their behalf. They do want to tell you. They're just angry and their ego is in the way. Okay? Walk away. All right. Silence. Women, this is our hardest thing to do. It's hard because you want your kids to understand. That's what you're trying to do, but they're not going to, not at that age. Not yet. All right, moving on. So another thing you can do, again, every child's different. This might work with one of your kids and not another. So every child's going to be different. You got to figure out what works with each one of your kids. Behavior contract is a step up from a reward system, and it outlines what your child needs to do to earn and keep extra privileges. Write down the behaviors you'd like to see from them, such as getting their chores done, putting things away, putting away their electronics without arguing. You can just, if you do these things, we can start building toward buying you a new Xbox. You know, and if you're following through with this contract every week, I'll give you an allowance. And if you don't have a lot of money, like $5, right? Especially if they're 10, right? You get $5, and once we get to this, I'll match it, or something like that. You come into an agreement with what works for you. You do not owe them the Taj Mahal. You do not have to promise them anything big. They are earning this through a social contract. They're getting their chores done. They're getting their homework done. They're putting their book bag by the door so they're not searching for it all over the house that makes them late every day. These are things that rules and guidelines that you set up, and that contract can be them fulfilling them. Okay, but let them have input in it as well. What works for them? All right. Next one. Okay, taking away privileges. When your child misbehaves, remove meaningful privilege. This might be taking away electronics for 24 hours or not allowing them to go to a friend's house over the weekend. Removing those privileges maintains your authority and sends the messages that privileges must be earned. Guys, your children, okay, according to Child Protective Services, the only thing that you have to give your children is adequate food, water, shelter, adequate clothing. And all that clothing can be bought at Goodwill. I bought my daughter clothes all the time, they would have tags on them sitting in the closet. Finally, I was done. So I took her to Goodwill. I said, have fun. You got $20. Go. Because I'm not buying you any more clothes. You don't wear them. You don't take care of them for whatever reason, because my daughter would go through phases. And so, and then she ended up loving thrifting. But that's beside the point. But the point is I'm done doing this. That's a privilege. I don't have to spend money on you. I don't have to give you an allowance. And everything that I go above and beyond, those things that I lay out. If your kids are tweened, lay out what Child Protective Services says. This is what I have to give you by law. But I go above and beyond that, and I don't have to. But I do it because I love you. But if I'm not treated with respect that I deserve, I don't have to. I don't think you understand that. I don't have to go above this. And if you need to, cut back a little bit. Let them see. If you always bought them grapes at the grocery store and that's their favorite thing, don't buy them grapes. That was an extra. I didn't have to do that. Because children, that's all they know is how you've treated them, what you've bought them, what you've done for them. And so they take it for granted because that's all they know. And it doesn't matter what level you are, right? I don't care if you have a little bit of money all the way to a lot of money. Children, whatever they know, that's their life. And so sometimes they need to be able to see what is above and beyond. Okay? They have to learn to appreciate and value what they have. All right. Um, if you do not follow through with this, your children will learn that you don't mean what you say. I cannot say enough, no matter how old your children are, consistency every day. The routines and consistency again and again and again. If you have a spouse, use them. If you have a child and you're going to different personalities, if you have a child that does not respond to you, that's dad's then. Dad gets to talk to that kid because they'll listen to dad, or vice versa, and that's okay. Moms, I often find, get hurt by that because they know dad's a lot harsher than them. And so mom tries to get in there and smooth it over. No, do not do that. Child has to know that when dad says this, he means business. They need that firmer hand that mom's probably not going to give them. Did everybody hear that? Because dads are super important, and even if the dad does not live there, do your best to work with them if they're involved in your child's life to set up the routines and the guidelines. Also, children play parents against each other. If you are separated from that child's parent, this isn't in the slide, but I'm going to tell you this: do not badmouth their father or mother ever. Not in front of them. You can say everything you want if you want to behind their back, but not in front of them. That is their parent. And I have coached people through divorces, and I had one particular where I told mom, whatever you do, don't three little kids. I said, do not badmouth him. I said, if you do, they will take his side because they will feel sorry for him and they will want to protect him. And I said, he's going to do a lot of things, and we already knew his personality. I said, let him. You stand firm on this. And so every time they would come back from dad's and they say, well, dad said you blah, 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 blah. And she would go, well, dad has his own opinions. And then she would go on and do something else with them. Within 1 year, they already said, well, dad lies a lot. Yep, dad's always angry. Dad's mad. And she would just, even that, I'm sorry, honey, I'm sorry that's like that when you go over there. And then she would change it and move on to something else. 100% those three little kids know who their father is. But they also gained so much respect and safety with mom because mom didn't. When you grow up, if any of you have been a product of divorce, when you grow up and you look back, you remember the parent that was the one, even if the other one tried to turn you against them, you will always see the truth as an adult looking back. Okay? Don't badmouth them. Also, if you are arguing with your spouse about discipline or anything in general, do not do it in front of your children. It is to be done behind closed doors. It doesn't mean that they can't hear you guys argue. And then you could come out, I'm sorry, mommy and dad, we're angry, but we're okay. We, sometimes adults have arguments, and that's okay. I'm not talking knock down, yell, drag out fights, but just arguments. That's real. I've had kids whose parents never argued in front of their kids ever, and then they got a divorce, and the kids were devastated because they had no idea that anything was even happening because they never saw anything. I'm not saying that. You can argue, but again, they don't need to hear what's in the argument, but you could have an argument in your bedroom. And then, hey, it's okay. We're good. We're just disagreeing about something. That's it. So all of those things are important for kids. Because kids will try to take on everything for you to protect you. All right. And never, if you have a step parent in the relationship, do not degrade that step parent in front of your child. If you say, don't talk to my daughter like that. Whoo, what did you just teach that daughter? That is not my dad, and I don't have to listen to him. And she will remember that for the remainder of her childhood. And it will get really hard because she will start to play you and him against one another. Children are smart. They're survivor. They're in this world to survive. And just like us, they're going to find every little thing they can, every tool that they can to make sure that they're good all the time. And so you leave grown-up matters with grown-ups, not in front of your children. All of your problems are also not your child's problems. They don't need to know all the horrible things happening in your relationship, your life, whatever, because they're too young to understand any of it. Even if they're a teenager, they still don't have the capacity to really process it and deal with it. Okay. Teenagers. Yes, this is their brain. This is literally what's all happening all the time, every second of every moment. As you notice, impulsivity is right there at the top. Next slide, please. The limbic system, which gives the rewarding feeling of taking risks, is structurally more developed before the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that stops you from taking the risk, is actually developed. So basically, the self-control, your planning, your self-awareness is still developing. But the limbic system, the reward system, is way more advanced. So you become a pleasure-seeking kid. Whatever makes me happy. Because remember how they don't feel pleasure very much anymore? So when they can find a behavior that brings instant pleasure really fast, they're going to seek it out, even though it's bad for them. Your child is, sociologists have, the research shows, your child becomes the 5 people that they hang out with. Whoever your child spends the most time with is the personality that will develop in them. So if you have a child that hangs around with the kids who do some really terrible things, they're picking up every one of those behaviors. And if they get to a point where hanging out with Joey, who likes to throw firecrackers at people's houses, is fun, eventually he's going to say, well, Joey doesn't get in trouble. He's not a bad kid. He just does. They're going to start seeking out those types of behaviors. Some people think, okay, well, good. My kid never leaves the house. No, but he's watching video games and he's on a streaming platform where people say really horrifying things that you can't hear. And those are still 5 people that they're spending the most time with. Okay? So their little brains are looking for pleasure because they don't feel it very often, but their ability to think it through isn't there yet. All of us as adults, when you talk to your teenagers, you're like, okay, what's your 5-year plan? Children, teenagers do not have 5-year plans. They have weekend plans. That's about as far as it's going to go. Talk to a kid who's 3 weeks out from prom. They're not even excited about prom yet. It's 3 whole weeks away. That's a whole lifetime. Why am I thinking about prom? I mean, yeah, I might have got my dress and my shoes, but it's 3 weeks from now. They're not thinking about it. Their brain doesn't allow them to plan that far in advance. Now, occasionally you'll get a kid who is very, everything has its place and they're very type A personality, but that often comes with a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure. And so there's bad to that too, but your typical teenager is just fly by the seat of my pants and see what happens. Well, this worked last time when I stayed up all night long and studied and I got an A, so this will work this time. So you are the one that is responsible to make sure that they have boundaries. Okay, and as they become teenagers, it gets harder and harder to set those boundaries because you want them to feel joy, and you want them to be happy, and you want them to feel good about themselves because they usually don't. As a teenager, they don't like themselves. They think they're too ugly, too short, too fat, too whatever, right? And so the last thing you want to do is add more onto that. So you start giving them more leeway, but which actually hurts them to a certain degree. Again, giving them new ideas and new things to do is okay so that they have some stuff in their control, but not to the extent of, sure, you can go away with your friends for the weekend to Myrtle Beach, or, I mean, I trust you. No. So I had some girls in high school who were juniors and came to me, don't know why they chose me, came to me to tell me how they were going to sneak out of the house in the middle of the night with their mom's van. They had already stockpiled it with alcohol, and they were going to drive to Myrtle Beach, and by the time their parents woke up, they would already be there. And so I was like, well, okay. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a dangerous plan. And then I'm the whole time in my head thinking, I got to go report this. So I prayed about it because I was like, I don't want to, because they trust me to tell me, but you can't be telling me this kind of crap, people, because I'm going to have to say something because you're now in danger. And thank God the mom found all the alcohol, so the trip was canceled. But these are your sweet little loving teenagers that are around a bunch of people who are wanting to go out and find fun. In their mind, it's just, I'm with my friends, we're going to get down there, we're going to drink, it's not a big deal. What they're not thinking is all the horrible things that could go wrong, right? And so they weren't bad kids. They were just, that sounded fun. They're going to be with their girlfriends, and this is hilarious. It's going to be so much fun. Not understanding all of the dangers that could be in that in so many different ways that we could sit here for the next 20 minutes and say could happen, right? So parents have to have the boundaries for safety because they don't understand it yet. They just don't. Okay. Explaining the role of the limbic system, explaining to your kids, okay, that the influence of peers, the malleability of their brain, it's still plastic. That means their brain can be changed and rewired right now at that time in amazing ways. It hasn't been this malleable since they were little babies, for 1 through 3, okay? Or 0 to 3. The teenager's brain establishes a basis for teens to better understand themselves, to exert control over their emotional and academic lives. Talk to them about how cool their brains are right now and that they can mold it into anything they want. Explaining to them, you are in the most amazing time of your life. Right now, you can learn a foreign language. You can learn a skill. You can learn how to do something you couldn't do before, and easier right now than you will ever be able to for the rest of your life. Make it big, make it exciting. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard and it's going to take time, but this is the time. If you really want to master another language, now is the time. What can I do to help? What can I help to encourage it? Kids lose interest in things, make them follow through. How many of you started playing the piano when you were a kid and you didn't follow through? Or you started doing something, and now as an adult you're like, oh, gosh, I would give my right arm now to be able to do it. But your parents gave in really easily and said, fine, okay, if you don't want to do it, you want to do it. Push your kids. Encourage them to do this. But explaining to that, breaking that down, like your brain can be rewired more easily now than it will ever be for the rest of your life. What do you want to do with that? That's amazing. Sky's the limit. Introducing all kinds of ideas and things to see what interests them. But they're at the age where they can understand that. It makes sense to them. Right? You're not babying them or just pushing something on them. You're giving them the choice to choose to do something. Okay, next slide. All right, teach self-regulation. It's not too late. The prefrontal cortex, which governs your executive functions, is still developing and remains highly responsive to the environment and to training during adolescence. Explicit self-teaching regulation, breathing, long-term planning. Get them a planner. Teach your kids how to use planners to write down their stuff. That is one of the best ways to give them time management and organization. Make them do it. It's still developing and remains highly... Oh, sorry, I already said that. Empathy might have particular benefits for teenagers. When my kids became early tweens, for Christmas, I would go out and buy gift cards. I would do $100 per kid, and I would do it in, I think it was $25 increments. And then we would go to Walmart and Target. And then my kids would stalk people, and they got to decide who they were going to go up and give the $25 gift card to. And so they made a Christmas card, and they would write Merry Christmas, and they put the $25 gift card in there, and they would they would go up by themselves. I would stand off and watch, and they would walk up, and they would just say Merry Christmas. And they would say, Mom, that lady looks like she has a bunch of kids. Okay. And they would go up and they'd hand her the card and be like, Merry Christmas. And they would get so excited. And then they would hide so they could watch her open it. That's creating empathy, right? That's them looking and being able to relate to other people, that Christmas wasn't just about them getting a gift. That's one of their Christmas gifts, was to give those gifts away. So teaching your children that it's more than just what is it about them. Set that up. They'll remember that. They'll feel that. My kids say that's one of their best things of their childhood that they remember. And so teaching them time management. College is not hard. As you all became adults, you began to realize that learning wasn't that hard, right? What was hard? Why do most kids drop out of college? Time management. They don't know how to manage their time. They don't know how to get done the things that they need to get done because they just put everything off to the last second, and then they realize they can't accomplish it, and they fail. They flunk out because they used to be able to read their notes in high school and get away with doing a test, but now in college your test is 4 chapters. If you didn't figure out a way how to break that down, time, not necessarily content, if you didn't figure that out, you can't do that in one night. And so time management, if you start practicing it as tweens and teenagers, they're more likely to use it as they become adults. So you're encouraging this. And you could have your own planner and show them. You guys can sit down on Sunday night and everybody does their planner for the week, this upcoming week. What do you got going? When's your practice? When's this? And you could all put it all in your calendars, what's happening. So they also know what's happening all week long with everybody. Mom's going to be here, Dad's going to be home, or I got to take care of my sister on this night, and so on and so forth. Practice it with them. When kids see you doing it, it's no more of the do as I say, not as I do. They'll respect it more. All right. Make good use of peer pressure. Peer pressure and social influence can be used for good too. Teens hate to stand out. This whole saying of, why do you try so hard to fit in because God made you to stand out? Yeah, teenagers don't like that because they do not want to be the center of attention. Tell them that smoking makes their breath stink. Tell them that their hormones make their sweat smell. No kid wants to be at school smelling. We have to have talk with freshmen every year because they don't realize now that they have hormones kicking in, that when they're running around doing stuff that they smell. And I mean, it's so bad that kids are sitting next to them like, well, of course now that kid's embarrassed, but nobody wants to say anything because parents don't have these conversations with their kids. They don't tell them, you stink, but you don't have to be mean about it. You can just say, hey, when you became a teenager, the hormones kicked in, and because of that bacteria, with the hormones and the bacteria, you smell, and so you have to shower every day. It can't just be every 2 days or 3 days like you used to do when you were little. You have to do it every day, right? Because they don't care, and they just think you're dumb. Tell them, right? Or you know what? Or take one of their clothes and make them smell it. This is what you smell like. Give them something real. Okay, next slide. Okay, more tips that can be used at any age. Behavior-specific praise. Instead of saying, great job, say something like, I loved how you folded those towels. I never thought about folding them that way. That's really cool. Oh my gosh, you make the bed amazing. I never made the bed like that when I was your age. That is so cool that you can do that. Look at this floor. You could eat off this floor. That is amazing. Thank you. Right? Just little things. I loved how you stopped jumping on the bed when I asked you to the first time. Right? That's like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. So they're here the first time. Mommy's was excited because I listened. I love that you took out the trash the first time I asked, because usually with teenagers it's the 18th time that you ask. They also know that. Ask your child to do something. See if they do it. Ask them a second time. Ask them a third time. Then ask them a fourth time. And then yell. What your child has learned is, mom tells me to do something 3 times before she gets mad. They will wait until that fourth time, or they'll wait all the way to the third time right before you get mad. They already know. They know you. They've lived with you their whole life. They know you. Praise with the high five or a hug, special handshakes can amplify the positive feedbacks. Kids need the physical touch. They need to feel your touch. And so if you're, especially your little one, give mommy or dad a special handshake when they do something really cool. You picked up all your toys without me asking. Get over here and dab them up. They love that stuff. That makes them feel special, especially if it's that little handshake is only their handshake, right? And so that's also creating a bond with you and your kids. They remember that, or your little song that you did with them. They remember all of that. I want you guys to really take a hard look at your childhood. What do you remember? You don't remember a clean house. You don't remember how amazing, this was or that was. What you typically remember is the time that mom or dad or auntie or grandma, whoever was raising you, made you feel special, made you feel heard, made you feel safe in a situation. That's what you remember. And that's what your kids are going to remember about you. That's it. Next slide. Okay. Things to remember. No LED lights in the bedroom. Again, those strips, if you have them, fine, but shut them off. They cannot have those on at night. No electronics 30 minutes, preferably 60 minutes before bedtime. You too. You need this too. You don't have to go to sleep. You can tell your kids you don't have to go to sleep, but you have to be in your room with the lights out. Okay? Let them lay there. Quiet time in their room, really good for little kids to start having quiet time, even if they're like, well, it too, not yet, but like, that's awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. So starting as young as you can. Her daughter's going to be 2, so 2-3 years old, even if it's for 10 to 15 minutes. Oh, it's quiet time. You can put on some little soft music, but they need that. Teenagers should be up at a reasonable time on Saturday or Sunday. Do not let your teenagers sleep until 3 because you're like, oh, at least I don't have to deal with them. It's not good for them. It throws off their circadian rhythms. Their circadian rhythm is then thrown off because my students will stay up until 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And then come Sunday night, of course they're wired. They're not. So every Monday, I don't teach on Mondays. Monday is either my quiet reading time or they're doing an assignment or makeup work on Mondays, because trying to teach on a Monday is impossible because they're all half asleep because they stayed up all night the entire weekend, and now they're like zombies. And so if they get up at say 5:30 or 6 on the weekdays, you can let them sleep in. Let them sleep until 8. That's reasonable. But at 8 o'clock, listen, you don't have to get up and go anywhere, but you're not to be in your bed and you're not to be on your phone. Those are my only 2 rules. You can't be in bed and you can't be on your phone. Even if they're in the living room watching TV, at least they're in your space and you see them. But you have to start this young, because if you try to do it as they're older, they're going to be extremely defiant because you never did it. So just throwing it on them when they're 15, you're going to have a massive power struggle in your hands. So these are things hopefully you can start younger and keep building. If they're already tweens, it's not lost. Okay, for all of you who have tweens, it's not lost yet. But now just becomes the consistency and holding on to it, because they're going to fight you tooth and nail. But if you keep going and keep the consistency, they'll get it. Just hold on to it. Again, teenagers should be up reasonable time. Have chore charts. Kids chore charts. Because here's what I hear from my high school students. I do the dishes, I da-da-da-da, and then mom tells me I never do anything. Do you know how much that hurts them when they know that they're bending over backwards and you don't even notice? Get rid of the vocabulary all and never. And this is also in any relationship. If you are with your husband or your wife or a friend and you're like, you always do this, you have now negated every good thing I've ever done. You have now negated every time I have ever tried, because you say I always do this, which means those 25 other times that I actually was working really hard, you didn't even notice them, so why should I bother to even try? And if you say never, it's the same thing. When I was 10 or 11, I think it was, I wanted to surprise my mom and do the dishes. I did the dishes, cleaned the kitchen. My mom came home, and I'm waiting for her to say something about the kitchen being clean. Nothing. Finally, I said, Mom, did you notice the kitchen was cleaned? I surprised you and cleaned the kitchen. She said, well, you should. You live here. Do you think I ever did the dishes and cleaned the kitchen ever again without being asked? No. Kids hear you, and they need to be acknowledged for what the weight that they're pulling in your household. Don't ever say never and never say always. Just say, okay, you've done a great job with keeping up, but something happened yesterday. You didn't do your chore. What's going on there? Don't throw in their face that they never do anything, or I always have to ask you, because you don't. And you probably just don't see it because you're fixated on what they just did that was wrong. Planners, again, use them for yourselves. It's a great way for you to also work in. And when you come to planners for kids, put in fun time for little ones. From 2 to 2:20, we get to have fun time. And you get to let them choose. For tweens or whatever, it could be the same thing. Maybe they love video games and you hate them. For 20 minutes, your kid gets to teach you how to play a video game. You're probably going to die every 5 seconds. But they're going to love the fact that you did. Mom sat down and played with me for 20 minutes, right? So even for teenagers too. I used to, when my kids, my daughter's 26 and my son's going to be 24. But even when they were 18, 19 years old, I would run in when they were still home, and I would jump in the bed and I would kiss them all over their head. And they'd be like, Mom, and I don't care. I'm like, I'm your mom. I'm going to kiss you every day until I can't. So jumping in there. And you know what? They loved it. As much as they would hate it, they say they hate it, they loved it. They loved that I paid attention to them enough to be that. And so coming into the room as a teenager, they're in their little planner. This is me and mom time. We got 15 minutes. All right, we got 15 minutes. What do you want to do? You got a new song you want me to listen to? All right. You're listening to, oh my God, this is the horrible thing. I can't believe I'm listening to this. But you can just be like, okay, not my taste, but I heard it. Okay, right? So the fact that you took out time out of your schedule for 15 minutes and to you it's 15 minutes. But to your teenager, wow, mom took out 15 minutes. She actually spent time with me without lecturing me, telling me what to do, giving me advice. She just allowed me to be present with her. Okay, so we have to resist trying to lecture them. If it's the most horrifying song you've ever heard, you might want to lecture them later on that about their choice of music, but not at that moment. Okay. Lastly, Your child is a minor. You can limit their phone use and look at their content for safety. Our kids are getting into some horrible things, and we don't know it because we think, well, we want our kids to have privacy. They're minors. Okay? And what I can tell you is what my high school students tell me all the time. I don't text my friends or these boys because my mom looks at my phone. I don't text boys because I'm afraid they're going to say something. And that's wonderful because they know that mom at any time can look at their phone. Now, I have parents who they don't look at their kid's phone every day, but that kid knows that their parents can look at it at any time. And knowing that they can look at it any time is enough for them to not do really stupid things on their phone. But you need to check your kid's phone. You need to look at the apps. Instagram now has a teenage app that it's actual teenage one, so the parents are in control of it. You need that. Snapchat, all of these, some of these are dangerous. Your kids under the age of frickin' 20 do not need a Facebook. Okay, that's for old people. Okay, I'm not saying that anything bad about anybody, but it's for older people. It is not for children. Roblox. If any of your kids in here play Roblox, horrible. They're actually killing rooms in this game system. And I know people whose 3 and 4 year olds are on these things. They don't know how to unlock them, but as they get older, they learn from their friends. You need to pay attention to what your children are playing, what games they're in. And they did also find out that a lot of these kids who do gaming, you have pedophiles that are in those gaming circles that are in those headphones talking to these kids. They go on there to meet kids. So be very careful. They are still minors as long as they are in your house. And if they are adults living in your house, still your house, still your rules. It's not a hotel. All right. Testing limits is actually a normal and healthy part of social and emotional development. Your kids are not bad. Do not say your kids are bad. They are learning their environment. They are learning how to be independent. They are learning to find their way. Testing limits is actually a normal and healthy part of social and emotional development. It's how kids learn what boundaries are and what happens when they cross them. To manage this, stay consistent with your limits and consequences. If a child thinks there's a small chance that they may be able to get away with something, they're going to be tempted to try it because they're kids. That's what we do. All right. I'm going to run through this one really quickly. Les, will you hit this? Everybody, I please do this with not only your kids, do it with your spouses, do it, I have my teenagers do it so that they can actually know their love languages with even their friend groups. Okay, so really quickly, love languages. This is the 5 love languages. If you go on this website, it's a free test that you can take. Take it with your kids. The reason I say this is 5 love languages, he proved that everybody has languages that you have, okay, that make you feel loved. There is words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, quality time, and physical touch. Thank you. I don't know why I forget those. I say them all the time. All right. So just to give you a quick example, you have 3 kids. There's Scott, Dawn, and Angie. That's me and my brother and sister. So Scott, Dawn, and Angie. And Dawn is a words of affirmation person. Scott is a physical touch person, and Angie is a quality time. Me, I'm mom. I'm a gift giver. So I'm coming home, every Friday, and I'm buying them stuff. Now, not their kids. They're going to appreciate them. But if that's not their language, none of them are feeling special because everybody got the gift, right? Now, Dawn's a words of affirmation. What does Dawn need from me? She needs me to sit down on her level, talk to her. I'm so proud of you. Look how pretty you look today. Giving her compliments, having little conversations. Hey, mommies, I'm going to go run to this dollar store. You want to go with me? Her just being with you and you guys talking about the products you're buying, that's her time. She loves that. Scott, what did I say he was physical? He needs high fives. He needs a pat on the back. He needs his hugs. He needs that. As they become teenagers, high fives, fist bumps. If you'll notice, you can tell boys when they're teenagers that they're a physical touch person. They're always tackling their friends. That's physical touch, right? They're the kid that runs up and is swapping their friend upside the head because that's how they give love, right? So my mom was a physical touch. We'd walk by and she'd smack us on the butt really hard and go, "I love you," and we were always like, "Stop loving us so much." So I'm not saying don't do that. And then Angie is a quality time person. Angie needs me to sit down and do those little games with her. She needs me to sit down and do that stupid puzzle or color a little picture with her. Setting aside 10 to 15 minutes. Again, it doesn't have to be half a day. 15 minutes. Sit down and color a picture with her. Talk to her while I'm coloring. They're all different. So if you want to go ahead and click on that, and I'll walk you through it real quick. You guys, it's called the Love Languages, 5 love languages. It looks just like this. It's the official love language quiz. Go down to start with 2 statements, okay? And the 2 statements is I like to spend one-on-one time with people, or I feel loved when someone gives me practical help, like doing homework with me. So you're going to click on whichever one fits you best, okay? So they're going to click on one, click on it, and then go to the next. Hit click, I like to spend one-on-one time. Or top one. Now, that's okay. Now it says, I like when people give me gifts. I really enjoy hanging out with people close to me. Click on the second one. All right, now just click all the way through them. Because every time you click it, it's going to go to the next one. There's 30 questions. So you wouldn't do it this way. You would obviously read through them all. All right, and then as they finish, and it is literally just clicking. Okay, then when it gets done, it's going to give you this. This is going to tell you what their love language is. The highest one is their love language. You can have more than one love language. As you see, this one's acts of service and receiving gifts are pretty close. So I would say this person has 2 love languages. I have 3. My top 3 were very, very close to each other. So I have 3. So some people, acts of service is like 80%. So then that is really how they feel love. Who do you think typically is an acts of service? Male or females? Men. Men, they take out the trash, they mow the lawn, they do the upkeep, they bring home the money. I mean, you know what I mean? That's kind of their role that we have in society. So in their way, I do everything. This is how I show you I love you. Men typically aren't running around going, I love you so much. You're so sweet. Let's sit down and have a conversation about your week. He's like, I mowed the lawn, took out the trash, I did all of these things. And that shows you I love you, right? These men who say, I told you I love you on the day I married you. Why do I gotta keep telling you? Obviously, I'm still here, right? That's acts of service. So once you find out what your child's is, now you're going to know how to love them. So figure out what your kid is, and that's how you're going to show. And then I have my high school students take this quiz. And then I teach them, there's another one, it's called Languages of Appreciation, and they use that in the business world. So I explain to them, this isn't just about love. This can be used for your friends and all of that stuff, which is great, but it's more than that. So as a therapist, I'm going to go back to even just in a marriage. I have watched people get divorced because they said, I never felt loved. And usually the man is like, what do you mean? I did all of these things. I bought you flowers. I took care of the house. I did all of those, outside. I did all of these things. She's like, yeah, but my love language was quality time. You never had time to sit down with me and just watch a movie. It was like I was all by myself. I didn't have a friend. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I needed to talk. I needed to feel your presence. But in his way, he was giving 100% through acts of service. But that wasn't her language, so she missed all of it. Does everybody hear that? Divorces happen every year because of that. You have to love them the way they receive love, not the way you get it. So I'm going to give you another thing to think about it from a work standpoint. Jocelyn and Lou's work at this place. I'm the boss. Every day, Jocelyn shows up half hour before everybody else gets there, and she starts the coffee pot. She makes sure that there's paper in the Xerox machine. She makes sure there's everything's filled, everything is ready to go for the day to start. Luz walks in with me. We both show up right at 7 o'clock, right on the dot every day. And we show up and we walk in together. And we walk in and she's like, how was your weekend? I'm like, it was good. She's like, you went to the zoo, right? And I'm like, yeah, how was it? Oh my gosh, it was so great. The kids had such a great time, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, you got this wedding coming up. Or did you figure out what you're going to wear? Da, 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 da. Okay. We come in. She follows me into my office, and we're just, shooting the bull for another 3, 4 minutes. Again, this is 7, 8 to 10 minutes every day. I am a quality time and a words of affirmation. Luz is a quality time and words of affirmation. Jocelyn is an acts of service. Now, 6 months later, I need to find somebody to manage to be a new manager. Who am I going to hire? Jocelyn's the one who does most of the work. She's the hardest working person I have. But who am I going to hire? Luz, because we have the same works of acts of appreciation. I'm in my head, I see what she does more than what I see Jocelyn do because she's feeling what I believe to be important. You need to know what your boss, how many people, I did a conference on people in retention for jobs. 72% of people will leave a job because they don't feel valued. And they will work for less money for a person who will value them. If every boss learned their workers' appreciation language, they would keep people. If I knew that your appreciation language was quality time, I'd pop by your desk every day for 5 minutes and check in on you. If acts of service was, I would be making sure that I was doing things to make sure your job was fit and working out the way it needed to. If you were words of affirmation, I'd be calling you, hey, I saw what you did on this deal. Amazing job. That was awesome. I'm so glad you thought of that, blah, 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 blah. You're going to feel heard and valued. Now, I want you to take that and put that with your kids. How often do your kids feel valued and heard? You think you're bending over backwards. How many times have you seen kids who were born, and I had friends who were extremely wealthy. I was poor, but they were very wealthy. And they used to tell me all the time they would switch places with me in a heartbeat. I was like, that's crazy. They all got BMWs for their 16th birthday. And I was like, that's insane. And I was like, no way. And they're like, we might have all of this stuff, but I never see my parents. A nanny's raising us. So they wanted to have what I had, which was a family of chaos, but a lot of love. And so you need to know your kids' languages, every single one of them, and they're all going to have different ones. And guess what, guys? They change. They change. It can be this way when you're a teenager, a kid, teenager, and then early adulthood. You can actually switch to change. Even into your adulthood, like at 40, it might be a little bit different than what it was when you were 30. So now also, just for you and spouses or relationships, you are responsible to tell them what your languages are too. Find out what theirs is and then say, my language is words of affirmation and quality time. What does that look like for our relationship? I need to hear from you throughout the day. Even though it's not important to you, I need a text that says, hey, I'm thinking of you. Doesn't have to be a big old message. It could just be a thinking of you, babe, a little emoji face. And then I need you to check in with me and see how I'm doing. Sit down with me. Take a half hour out of your day and watch a movie with me. Because then I'm going to feel heard and feel valued by you. That's it. Kids need the same thing. If your kid is not a words of affirmation, do not send them a 15-page text. They will not read it. If you're dating someone and they're not a words of affirmation, do not send them a 15-page text. They will not read it. They will respond with K. And then you will be angry. And you have nobody to blame but you because that was not their language. So, last one. This is the book that I was talking about. This is Parenting with Love and Logic. Again, this is for toddlers. They do have one for teens. This particular couple who wrote this book, both psychologists, they had 2 teenage boys. And I'm going to finish up with this, you guys. They had 2 teenage boys, and they realized that they were taking them out to bring them shopping for school. And they had one kid who was, really particular about everything. The other kid didn't care too much. And they realized that they would spend a ton of money because the kids never looked at price tags or anything because their parents would just buy them whatever they needed. And they finally sat down and said, what are we teaching our kids? We just go out and buy them stuff. They have no concept about money or anything. So they decided that they were going to sit them down, and they decided how much did they typically spend on them for the going back to school. So they sat down and said, between the beginning of school and Christmas break, this is about what we spend for back to school clothes, paper, pencils, all of that. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you the cash, and you are to buy everything that you need for the semester. Whatever you need, you better buy it because we're not giving you another dime. Because in the real world, if you don't have the money, you can't buy it. So the one son, the meticulous son, went out. He bought everything he needed. The other son went out, and I think he bought an amp for his guitar. Didn't buy anything. About a couple weeks into school, coming home, Mom, I need notebooks. Mom, oh, sorry, you were supposed to buy that. You didn't. That's the consequence of not doing what you need to do. She said, now, I'm not going to say it was easy. I had to listen to this child whine and cry all the way to Christmas about what he didn't have. And then we sat him down and said, okay, the second semester, this is your allowance for your second semester. They said, that second son had already mapped out every cell within a 20-mile region to find everything he needed to finish out school. And she said, we never had to worry about money again because they now understood the concept of money. And we raised 2 boys that were able to take care of themselves. The last one, senior year, again, the choices. You chose not to eat. And I'm sorry you chose that, and that's awful, but you can eat again at dinner when you choose to eat this. You chose not to do your homework, and now you can't watch the movie that you wanted to watch. I'm sorry, but maybe next time you can make a better choice. You got to give your kid choices. Everything is a choice. Their consequences are due to their choices. His son, senior year, came to his dad and said, hey, Dad, there's a party going on. All the seniors are going to be there. Can I borrow your car? Dad said, I'm sorry, honey. I have a seminar, but you can ask your mom. He said, I already asked Mom. She has a seminar, too. It's okay. I'm not going to go. Son goes into his room. He walks in. He says, hey, well, what's going on? He goes, why don't you go with your friend Charlie? And he goes, that's okay, Dad. He said, Charlie's been drinking and stuff at parties, and I don't really trust getting into a car with him. And he said, I'm so proud of you for making that choice. Wow, I'm so proud of how grown up you are. Now, I know that's really hard, and I know you'll be there, but I really respect you for that. That night, Charlie got into the car with 4 of their friends and drove over the side of a mountain, and they were all killed. He said, had I not taught my children to make choices, my son would have been in that car. We expect our children to make good choices at 18, but we never taught them to make choices. We just told them what to do. You have to teach your children to make their choices and that there are consequences for our choices. If I go out and I choose to punch someone in the face or pull out a gun because they made me angry, my consequence will be years in prison, if not dead. We have to choose to tell kids that carrying a gun when you can't control your anger is not a good choice. We don't do that. We blame everybody else for it. We have to teach our kids to make choices, and it starts when they're little. If you didn't get them until they were teenagers, you got to start now as everything that you can, because in a very few short years, they're going to leave you, and they're going to have to make their own choices, and they're going to have to live with their consequences. That's what real love is. We're here to raise good children who make good choices and who can have a great life because they know how to make good choices. And this book is amazing if you want a great read. It's called The Happiness Advantage. He is hilarious. Talks about how to find happiness in everything. Happiness is a mindset. It's not a feeling. Joy is a feeling. Happiness, you can be happy anywhere and at any time. And I try to teach my children this. I teach my high school students this. Happiness is a choice. You can choose to be happy right now. And I make them close their eyes. I want everybody in here to close their eyes. I want you to see the place where you travel or you get to go that makes you so happy. It can be a beach. It can be your lounge chair. It can be sitting in your backyard. I want you to visualize it right now. See it. And I want you to see yourself, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. You can feel the warmth. You can feel the sunset. You can feel whatever that is that you enjoy at that place. Do you feel it? Do you see it? Now open your eyes. For that brief moment, you're able to find that happy place. That's as easy as it is. But you have to practice it. If you don't practice it, you don't know how to get there. So, thank you all. I hope that this helped. I hope that I gave you some insight into your child's behavior. They are not crazy. They are not, well, maybe not crazy, but they are not bad. They're just making choices and decisions based on what they know and navigating the world. And remember, this is your first time being parents. Right? This is their first time being kids. So, have a blessed day.